Everybody. I'm Todd Nash, President of Oregon Cattlemen's Association, here today with Rex Hoagland, Director of Cattle Procurement at CNS Beef Packers. Rex, you want to further introduce yourself a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do there?
Okay. Yep, Rex Hoagland. I was born and raised here on the Snake River and got the opportunity to move all over the United States buying cattle with ConAgra and JBS and Swift. And finally got to come back home with the Cavaniss family and the Simplot group here to the new Idaho plant. So it's been a fun ride over the last 40 some years, and looking forward to a few more of them yet.
Well, Rex, you have a kind of a high stress job, or what I'd consider a high stress job, of making sure that 15 to 1700 head a day make it to that facility. You want to tell us a little bit about how you accomplish that?
So, yeah, I get to relieve that stress every night when I go home and see our own cattle out on the pasture. But anyway, it takes a group of us of about, we're running about 10 or 12 buyers plus all the people we talk to out of the country, ranchers and direct ships. But it takes a group to make it keep ticking along and getting the trucks loaded and scheduling cattle. But we've had a good run here and gained a lot of friends in the business, and so that makes it a lot simpler. They call, schedule their cattle, and we get them moved in here and give them a kill date and get them taken care of and send their check to them. So it is stressful at times, but it's a lot of pleasure too to see how well these guys get along with railing their cattle.
And so on that, just out of curiosity, how many of those are delivered into your plant kind of randomly? How many are under contract, and how many do you procure just from sale yards around the country, percentage-wise?
So, yeah, we pretty much pride ourselves in staying at about 90 to 91% direct ship cattle. So that's direct shipments coming in from the ranch and the dairies. So we don't have to buy a pile of cattle, but we do cover all of the auctions in the Northwest and the West. We don't get into California, but we're Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Montana, Wyoming. This is where we buy our cattle from.
And do you receive some cattle out of Canada?
No, we probably, since this plant started, we've probably run about maybe 8 loads out of Canada, but that would be it. Their numbers are such up there, Todd, that they can't afford to lose too many coming down here because they need them to run their facilities up there with no more than they're not rebuilding their cow herd.
Well, one of the interesting things when I toured the plant over there, seeing the number of cuts that you're taking out of those cattle and trying to capitalize on more than just hamburger, what products do you take out of those slaughter cows and bulls that people wouldn't ordinarily understand if they never been to your plant or visited with somebody there?
Well, you're going to pull out of the better cows, well, even out of the cutter cows. You're going to pull, some of the ribeyes, the strips, tenderloins, getting into the rounds. There's the anyway, there's several cuts that you're going a lot of different tri-tips. You're going a lot of different directions with them. The cow meat is going to eat a little tougher, so it goes into what we call a low-end steakhouse, and they're probably putting it through a tenderizer to help it be a little more palatable. But there's opportunity to upgrade some of those cuts. And in today's world, you have to maximize everything you can because margins are not good today.
Yeah, it's a little tougher when these cattle prices get higher. And you got to try to sell that product and move it on there. One of the interesting things I saw too, and I didn't actually see it, but talking about injecting some higher quality white fat into some of those tougher muscle cuts. You want to talk about that process a little bit?
Yeah, that would be a cow that's going to weigh 12 to 1250 that you could lock up and into a feedlot, put them on a grain-fed ration, corn-fed, barley. It all works. You're going to feed them depending on body score. So if they're in a body score of 4 to 6, you're probably going to need to feed them about 65 to 80 days max. A thinner cow, could take 85 or 90, but you got to get their guts corrected. If they're coming in off short grass, their guts aren't turning quite right. So you've got to take a little time, 2 to 3 weeks, to get everything running right again. And then you can go to pushing them. And like I said, get it done in 60 to 80 days. And that cow is going to come out weighing in that 1450, range. They're going to gain, 3, 4 to 4 1/4 a day, depending on condition going in. So I think it's something that everybody needs to look at. If their cows come off thin, I think they need to take a look at how do we maximize this carcass to get the most return out of it. And with hay at half price, that's going to help. Corn's going to help a little, but not as much as we'd like because the price hasn't gotten down there yet. But there's opportunities to put that weight on it, not a high cost to gain, that you can make money. So in today's world, we're sitting here at 216 on a cutter cow. So and a 215 on a white cow. So if you can get that cost to gain on for less than 215, you're going to make some money putting it on her.
And on that, we look at these cattle that have been maybe on a high keratin feed ration like alfalfa or bright green grass, and what does it do to that fat color, and what does it do to the quality of carcass when you're feeding that kind of feed and then bringing those cattle into you?
So the alfalfa, if it's cut and put in a bale, it does nothing. It's just feed. If you're feeding a haylage type ration or the green grass early in the spring when it's really lush, it will put some yellow tint to their fat. There's nothing wrong with that fat, but when you put it in a supermarket setting, the housewife looks at it and thinks there's something wrong with it because it's yellow. It's not white like they're used to. So, the grass-fed industry, they're going to see some of that different times of the year. And as you get to the fall into that hard dry feed, it'll whiten them back up. You don't even know that they was, out on grass. But it's a high keratin haylage. Green grass in the spring, I'm not sure what that triticale does. I'm not sure the keratin level in it. I haven't been around it enough. They do feed a fair amount of it here to the dairy cows. We don't see a lot of yellow carcasses, so I'm guessing it's fairly low in keratin.
Okay. Well, Rex, cow-calf producers, 15 to 30% of their business is usually bulls, cows. To capitalize on that the best that they could, is there a time of year that they should maybe be targeting, trying to sell their cull cows rather than just a traditional, you preg them in the fall and move them out as soon as they're declared open? Or is there a better strategy out there that producers could be looking at to capitalize?
Yeah, the answer to that's yes, but it doesn't work in the calving cycle. So if you're a spring calver, you got calves on them through the summer, that's going to be one of your better markets because of barbecue season, being able to sell that product. But when they're sucking a calf, you can't get rid of the cow. So the next best option is probably that 3rd, 4th week of January, and the first 2 weeks of February is going to be a decent market. Typically, the first 2 weeks of January, you've got a tax purpose cows coming to town. They had to hold them up and sell them after the first of the year. So that market stays down in that winter market. But you get to about the 3rd week of January, it starts picking up, and that'll usually roll into, 2nd, 3rd week of February. Then you'll see the spring cows, some of those, the guys are checking, or the fall cows that they got back through, and they'll kind of bring a few more cows in. It could weaken a little there, but then you get to, that May, June, when everybody's turned out, the market picks back up because there's not a lot of cows around. So yes, to answer your question, there are opportunities, but it depends on when your calving dates are.
Yeah, and maybe if one of those is a younger cow and she does happen to be a body condition 4 or something like that, it may be practical at times to put her on feed for a little while, as to your point further, not
Well, in today's world, and I've talked to a lot of producers this last spring about this. So, we had a terrible winter, across a lot of the Northwest, and they lost a lot of calves, and it wasn't the cow's fault. So them cows that are 4 to 7, even a 4 to 8 year old, you're better off to hold that cow and re-rack her if it wasn't her fault for losing the calf. And I know that goes against everybody's mindset, but if that cow's worth, just say $1,250, $1,300 today, you're going to put another 600 on her to re-rack her, 700. You got a $2,000 bred cow. Those bred cows this fall and next year could be on top of 2,500 to pushing 3,500. So, and that cow knows your ranch. You go buy bred cows and bring them in. You got a 2 to 3 year run to get them cows acclimated, and you're going to have a certain percentage of open cows out of those that you buy because they don't know the ranch. So there's a lot of things out there that people need to look at and think about that could save them some money, as long as they've got the cow that they want to hold on to. But there's several ranchers that done just what we're talking about this summer because they couldn't replace them.
Yeah. And so getting into that and getting into the population of the cattle across the United States and here in the Northwest, how big of a concern is that to you guys, trying to get that volume of cattle in there day after day? It must weigh heavy on your minds that, as somebody that has to procure those cattle and make sure they keep coming.
It does. And, when you get into markets like this, when everybody needs cows, all of the ones that were dollars behind us before, now they're having to catch up in matches and have to even give more for them. So, they're not liking it, but it is what it is. But we just try to treat people fair, and we try to be honest with them and help them through whatever situations they've got. We don't try to take advantage of them. And I feel very strongly in that here in this office. So.
Yeah. And one of the things you've done there to stay viable and keep cattle coming is you have processed some young cattle too, some fat cattle. Do you foresee that into the future?
I believe with our partnership with Simplot, yes, we're killing about 2,000 head of fats a week. We kill some every day. We start the kill with fat cattle, and then we roll into cow bull. And with 120,000 head yard right here at Grandview, we've got the opportunity to do just that. So yes, we will continue to kill fat cattle.
Okay. Well, Rex, I appreciate you getting on here today, and always interesting to listen to you. The plant over there is state of the art. How old is the plant there?
We would be 5 years now?
Yeah. And
a little over 5.5.
Yeah, and I got the opportunity to tour it a couple times now, and it really is impressive. And you guys have been more than accommodating to. Last winter with the Northwest Meat Packers Association, I took a tour with them, and then I took a tour also that was organized with John Nalifka, the beef board, and anyway, that was really interesting, and I would encourage people to do that if you're willing to accommodate those sort of tours occasionally. I think it has a huge value. One of the concerns that we have here is the viability too of our sales yards. It wasn't too long ago we had 18 of them in Oregon. We're at 6 now, and so with delivering direct versus buying them at sale yards, I know you talked about it a little bit that it's probably a better program for you, but is it important too that these small producers, the average producer I think in the United States is 42 head. Is it important to keep the viability of these sale yards going as well?
Yes, that is a true concern because you've got, so the only way that the small rancher producer survives, there's it's kind of a two-step deal. So if you had, let's just say you had 6 or 8 of them producers within a close proximity of each other. The next step is the cattle have got to be in the close condition and quality of each other. They could all partner up and sell a load lot if they so desired, and they could sell it to a feedlot buyer. Without that, they have to have a place to go to with those cattle. And so if we don't salvage the auction yards, and what I tell people, I don't care where you sell them, auction or ship them in here, as long as I'm in the auction and I got a chance to buy them, it's good for me. I want them to be happy where they're selling and like the prices they're getting. So I don't twist their arm to come in here, but we do try to do a very good job showing them what their cattle are worth on an individual cow basis, which most plants don't. They get to see the high cow and the low cow, and they can go back and look at their notes and say, well, here's a cow that brought $1,900. She graded a white cow, and here's a cutter cow that weighed 430 pounds. She brings, $900. They can go through there and they're going to see the exact same thing through the auction. Not every cow is going to bring $1.14. They're going to have cows from 95 cents to $1.14 and everything in between. So they need to understand and learn the market and how the thing works. And that's one of the problems when they look at the market report, they see cows bringing $1.14 on the top. They don't all bring it. So then they're disappointed no matter where they go. So they just have to be realistic with what they've got. Look at their cow herd and know what condition their cows are in on every cow, not just the best cow in the pen, because she's only going to do what she can do. The other thing that I would like to say, though, is if there's producers out there that would like to retain ownership, and if they want to feed through Grandview Simplot, those fat cattle would probably come back through this plant.
Okay, and that is highly educational to go through a program like that, see the outcomes, and know exactly why and how much they're bringing. I would encourage people to feed cattle at least once and to see that process for sure. So,
and I agree with that. I think that it's a learning opportunity, and then you have some track record on what your cattle do. So when somebody comes to their ranch to buy them, they have that opportunity to say, well, I've been feeding them for the last 3 years and here's what they've done.
Yeah. I just got the cutouts from our fair here, and we had carcasses that were worth all the way up to $2,800, all the way down to a no roll that was a light carcass that was $1,400. And
cow price.
Yeah, and so it is interesting, and it should be an opportunity for young people. But I'm always amazed at the number of people, and I wouldn't know on the butcher cow side how those cutouts really look, but it is fascinating to me how many people in our industry don't understand what those carcasses are worth on the other side. So
no, and that's what I got the opportunity to go do another fair on the ranch side again next week. And I so want these kids to understand, and I want the parents to understand the daily gains, the cost of gains, the conversions, even though their numbers are inflated because of the way they have to buy their feed, it is a learning opportunity for those kids to understand the industry. So for any of them that want to come back in here and manage a feedlot or even do my job, being a packer buyer, the more of that you understand, the easier it is to jump into one of these jobs and have a leg up. And they've got a perfect opportunity with these 4-H projects.
Well, Rex, we're going to wrap this up. Any closing thoughts you might have that we didn't cover here thus far?
No, I think the calf market has been tremendous this year. The cow market's good. I believe we've got, if not one more good year, we've got 2. A lot of it's going to depend on how quick these guys rebuild with the numbers. But if we can find that happy medium, we could sustain fairly close to this level for the next 3 or 4 years. So, and Lord knows, with our input costs today, we need everything we can get. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, appreciate you getting on here today, and always appreciate the fact that you're willing to to visit so openly about everything that you got going on over there, and the openness of the plant to be able to tour through there. So
Yeah, we enjoy showing it off. It's a nice facility.
yeah, it is. It is a wonderful facility. All right, Rex. Well, you have a good day, and we'll be visiting with you soon.
Okay, Todd. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.